Hello everyone, I'm Santiago, and today I'm gonna be testing Assassin's Creed Origins on the GeForce GT 1030. For FPS monitoring, I'll be using CAM. If you want to download the software, there's a link down in the description. And if you enjoy the content and want to support the channel directly, there are Humble and Amazon affiliate links down in the description as well. So Assassin's Creed Origins, I'll be doing 1080p, 900p and 720p. To skip none of those sections of the video, check the description below. So first of all, I need to talk to you about the issues I ran into with this game while running this GPU. First, the game was fine, it just defaulted to very low settings, which is everything on the lowest. So I just ran the game, it was running fine. I started cranking up the textures, some of the settings, and the game just stayed at 20 frames per second. So I decided to just lower everything except in textures, which is what I usually do on all games, since on the 750 Ti and 1050 2GB, with medium to high textures it was fine, but the game was still at 20 frames per second, 25. So I decided to lower to 720p and I got like 22 FPS. Which didn't make any sense. After some tests, I just dropped everything to very low, restarted the game, and it was running fine. So for what I could see, it was the texture quality option that was causing this. By just keeping textures on very low and the rest of the stuff cranked up to adequate settings, it was enough to be over 30 frames per second. So despite the card having 2GB of VRAM, it doesn't seem to be enough to maintain a decent level of performance. Maybe it's just because of the 64-bit bus compared with the 128-bit bus on the 750 Ti, for example. Maybe just memory bandwidth, who knows. But in order to get 30 frames per second or more, you need to use very low textures, at least on my end. But yeah, not much else to say about that. On 1080p I had to use pretty much the lowest settings, and it was dropping to 27 FPS in some parts when there were many enemies on screen, and I used the overclock GT 1030. Then on 900p and 720p I turned off the overclock, since not everybody will overclock their GPUs. And well, on 900p I used slightly higher settings than 1080p, and on 720p I used pretty much a mix between medium and high with some stuff on low. So I recommend on this one 720p because it looks better overall, better visuals, better shadows, better ambient occlusion, all that kind of stuff. And now I'm going to talk to you about the options menu and some stuff I ran into while just benchmarking this game. I really like the options menu. The things that gave me the biggest hit in performance were environment details and shadows mostly. We also have an adaptive quality setting, which seems to be temporal filtering, just named as adaptive quality. It doesn't seem to be a very strong dynamic resolution. There's not a big difference visually or in performance. Sometimes I got a good boost, sometimes I didn't. Then on the other options, the other one that gave me a good boost was screen space reflections, clutter. Volumetric clouds was a small impact in performance. I mean, occlusion wasn't a big hit, but it helped out when I needed a couple extra frames. What helped me out the most was reflections, tessellation, shadows, and environment details. Environment details was a bigger impact on my CPU. Other than that, I recommend just playing with the resolution. If you don't have a good enough CPU, this game won't get to 60 frames per second. The G4560 was 50 frames per second max in the best case scenario. It wasn't constant anytime soon, so if you have a dual core with hyperthreading like the G4560, try target 30 frames per second. More than that is quite impossible, even if you have a 1080 Ti. Then if you have a Ryzen 3 1200, you can get between 45 and 60. So I recommend you try to aim for that target if you want more frames, but 60 constant was impossible. So if you want 60 FPS constant, you should have a high clocked modern i5 or better, or a Ryzen 5 overclocked as well. That should be enough to give you 60 frames per second or 50 to 60 frames per second. But it would be interesting to test this with a coffee like i5. It will probably get very good results since this game demands all that horsepower. Quite well optimized considering how good it looks, plus the draw distances it has. But yeah, it's running better than I expected. It even has a benchmark tool, which I appreciate. A very foliage dense area, plus a couple places of a big city. So the benchmark should be a good reference if you're testing. And it also tracks your last 30 seconds of gameplay and shows you the frame rates, the average and the frame times. So the game is just tracking your performance while you're playing, which is awesome. Just pause the game, go into the options menu, and you have your last 30 seconds of performance just in the game itself, which more games should have. And in this options menu, you can see the difference between each preset just by looking at the picture on the right, so you know what you're changing, which also is an awesome touch. The options menu in this game is top notch. Anyway guys, that's pretty much it. I hope you keep enjoying the video, thanks for watching and see you next time.
Hold! Hey! Hold on, you!
This place is heavily guarded.
Hey, hold on! The enemy! Push on! She will not escape! God, the enemy! I must push on! Have your guts out! You're looking to die, you bastard! Hold the enemy! I must push on! Follow me! Alarm! Is in range! Alarm! I can hit him easy. Too close. Who killed me? Shoot and run, imbecile! I have a shot. Alarm! Alarm! Trouble here! Damn it! We must keep up. There you are. Well within range! The enemy! I must push on! Over here, brother! This won't take long. Hey you! Stop!
What are the guards here, instrument?
Got you, dog! Hey, what? Going to gut you! Hey, what? I'll kill you! I'll rally the troops! Hey now, work together! Shield me, brothers! I'm You will pay, corpse! Shield me, brothers! I must not fail! Stay with me! Stay here! Come on! I have a shot! I must not fail! Hey! Ain't going anywhere! Hey, wait! Worms can't have you! Hey, hold on! Hold the enemy! I must push on! I'll rally the troops! Yeah. Whoa, got you now. Hold the enemy! I must push on! Too close, wish I had half your skill. Alarm! Charge! Alarm! I can hurry! You're dead. Now that was the close thing.